Okay. Doesn't show it. There it is. Well, good evening and welcome to Your Life Matters Show. Sorry, we're not just sitting here staring at you for no reason. There was supposed to be an intro video for some reason. Doesn't seem to want to play. But okay, that's not a problem. Um, it's actually funny because I'm looking at it on YouTube here, and it's so far behind us that I got to put this on mute. But anyway, thank you all for joining us for tonight's show. This is the revised edition of the Your Life Matters show that we used to have, the Your Life Matters show podcast. And of course, I'm your host, Steve Hodgson. But with me is a very dear friend, consultant, and I didn't want to call him co-host, but basically he's going to be our co-host too of the Your Life Matters Show podcast, Dr. Eric L. Davis. Now, some of you might remember Dr. Davis was on our show back in the old format of the show talking about his book. But I'm going to let Doc, instead of me reading through this list, I'm going to let him decide what he wants to tell you about himself. So, Dr. David, Dr. Eric, I'm going to call you. Welcome to our show today.
Thanks for having me. So I am a mental health and addiction therapist. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and a licensed clinical addiction counselor in Indiana. I also have certifications in gambling counseling and some other things. And my doctorate, I have a doctorate in social work as well as a PhD in Christian counseling. So that's me. Let's see. So I'm a therapist, educator, consultant, all those fun things. So
yeah,
I really do. I love what I do. No question about it.
Well, there's no question that you're good at what you do because, I mean, I've known you for, well, I don't want to know how many years because we go back for a while there.
Yeah.
Okay. We met through his
I'm
brother.
guessing 15.
At least 15.
Yeah.
I wasn't
Maybe.
sure if it was 15 or 18, but it's been in there. But I've watched Dr. Eric go from, and by the way, folks, it's hard for me to call him Dr. Eric, so just bear with me a little bit. I've watched them go from like a little private practice up to, I mean, working for the governor's office in the state of Indiana. I mean, that's really, really good. So that tells me you're really, really good at what you do. And when we first started talking, my wife and I, about, all right, maybe the time is right to bring the show back because for the longest time, just wasn't feeling well. It was that simple. I just wasn't feeling good. But I said, I want to come back, but I don't want to interview authors over and over and over again because I started going back into the paranormal and all that stuff. And it's like, there's 1,000 people doing that. Okay. The original idea of the show, the concept was to talk about your life matters. Okay. And what matters to your life. And that meant everything mental and physical about your being, what you do day in and day out. And we're going to try to cover more and more of that. We're going to talk about your health, your religion, your spirituality, things that you face on a day-to-day basis. Now, not saying that we're not going to bring in guests and authors to talk about a specific topic, but it won't be the main focus of the show talking about their book. They'll be part of the discussion when we have that. So this brings us to this week's premiere rebooted podcast. Okay, I want to lay the groundwork specifically for this show because this is very, very important. Now, we're going to talk today about politics. Okay, if you're like me, every time you sign on to social networks like Facebook, even X, so you're deluged with politics. Trump did this, did this. It must have been Biden. It's Republicans. It's Democrats. It's all a pain in the ass, personally, to me. I go on Facebook not to sit and argue with relatives and friends, but I go on Facebook to enjoy myself. Okay, and you've seen my page. I post jokes 99% of the time. I just want to laugh. What's going on? This is scary going because I got a message at the top of my screen here. It said, "Oops, connection lost, reconnecting." So I don't know what's going on. I will watch over left.
Unfortunately, I think it's frozen.
At all. There he is. Okay, he's back now. Um, we're not going to talk about a specific political topic. We're not going to take sides. No political parties. Okay, you want to see that stuff? Go to Joe Rogan, Glenn Beck, Fox News, CNN, MSNBC. Hey, they'll give you everything you want to know. We want to explore how hurtful and dangerous this has become, and how we as individuals can deal with all of this and turn the rhetoric down about 7 notches. Okay, I've lost friends. I mean, literally have lost friends over this. Okay, people I've known for 20 years. Just, oh, you got to be stupid, boof. And, that's, I don't need to deal with this. Well, you know what? I respect your opinion. Just like you to respect mine, but it doesn't happen. There's been too much on there going at each other's throats. I mean, sometimes you can't even go to a family reunion. That's where I was going. Okay, before the power went out there, to a family reunion where people don't want to go anymore because there's going to be that one or two relatives that have a difference of opinion that you have. And it's going to turn into a scene, and it's going to turn into an argument. And if any families like even mine, or for most, it's going to go to that no matter what you try to do. It's going to go, oh, because the Republicans are doing this, or that's because the Democrats are. No, let's stop. Let's go back to life. Now, I just want to say one thing before we start going into the actual topics of this. It's not saying you shouldn't have an opinion. Okay, everybody has an opinion and it affects them personally. But what we're going to talk about tonight is how to present that opinion without being confronting to people, without being insulting to people, and really sometimes just not saying anything at all. Okay, just let it go. I tried to break the show down to 6 major subcategories, which we'll try to cover tonight: personal impact, social media and polarization, historic context, trying to heal the divides, the impact of society, and really important personal reflection. Okay, so let's start with personal impact. I'm sure many of us has had many personal experiences where it's caused that rift or family problems. Without going into specifics, as I said, I lost a friend for 20 years. And I have relatives, one of which I don't hear from anymore, actually removed me on Facebook. Okay, this is a person that, from when I was a little kid, used to take me to Central Park in New York City, and we climbed what I used to climb the rocks, but they were like little rocks. But when you're a little kid, those were some big rocks that we were climbing. And now they don't even want to talk to me anymore because of my beliefs. Why is it so hard for people to keep those beliefs to themselves?
I think a big part of it has to do with, our beliefs are really ingrained in our identity. If you think about who you are, inevitably, your beliefs are going to come into play, so, and I think that when a person disagrees with us, a lot of times, even though it's not an attack on us, it's just simply a difference of opinion. A lot of times, and I'm definitely guilty. I know probably everybody is. We can take it personal. We feel like you're attacking me, and I think that's my belief.
Well, there's no question. I mean, I'm just as guilty. Okay, and people have probably wondered why I toned down my rhetoric. Okay, because I really, really did. I toned down what I used to post. Heck, I was just reading a post, as I said, while I was eating dinner, and I'm not even going to go into the topic because I'd be going into it. But I was just sitting there, and then my wife and I got into a discussion about it. And it's like, it's you're right. I think it's so ingrained inside of us that our belief is right. It's correct. It's like everybody's out of step with my son John. What I used to hear, when I was growing up. Okay, going way back. If that they're out of step with everybody else, it was a mandate by the people. Okay, to do different things, but I don't know. Do you think they're doing it to just to defend their identity, or do you think they're just doing it for confrontation?
I think it depends on the situation. I think sometimes the answer is both.
Mm-hmm.
Either or what is it? Either and,
Right.
and or whatever. Because I think that it really depends on what the context is. I think sometimes people will, fight back or start something just to have some sort of entertainment, etc. But I do think that a lot of times it is the beliefs. It's if you think about it, and I saw this online. This was interesting. A guy said he said, "No, I don't believe. I know." And the guy said, "Well, if you know, then you believe." And he said, "No, to believe means I don't know." And and I don't know how I
Right.
feel about that, but I thought that was an interesting concept. And I think it kind of comes back to that, where when I understand, what I think is right, um, how I'm going to live my life, etc. When people don't believe that that's necessarily the best way, sometimes that's somebody can feel attacked. And so I like what Carl said in the comments. He said, more to toe the line on these days, or more to toe the line these days.
Mm-hmm. I, you know, it's really sad, but I and I don't even want to say it's with this president. I think it happened about 2 years prior to that. That all of a sudden the tone of America changed.
Yeah.
I don't know if some people will say we were pushed too far. Other people will say, yeah, people wanted, their to push their opinions on things. I don't know. I noticed that whereas I would sometimes just say, hey, person A did this, this, and that today. Bravo. Okay, not even going into politics. Okay, someone like Musk to say bravo to Elon Musk, who sent the ship up there and brought back the two astronauts. Okay, non-political, completely
Yeah.
non-political. I would put something like that up, and then of course, as I said to you earlier before we came on the air, I do jokes. Okay, Facebook and stuff like that. Anyone who knows me knows I just want to laugh. Okay, there's so many people that send me messages. Man, when I was away for like a few days, it's like I used to look forward to waking up in the morning, getting on Facebook, and you had 8, 9, or 10 different things you post. At least 4 or 5 of them made me have a real good laugh. And yeah, I thought that was all about that feel good, because I think
Yeah.
if we could all wake up and laugh, that's really, really good. And in fact, I was thinking about this morning at breakfast. Um, there's a psychic medium who's also a life coach. Um, okay, Rick. I'll think of his last name in a minute, but because my head is like going in 4 directions right now. But Rick actually said in one of his seminars once, he said we need to not wake up in the morning and go to Fox News or CNN or something like that. Okay, we need to wake up in the morning and take in life that's around us, feel the presence of life and stuff. Sit down, have breakfast. Don't go read the news. Okay, do
Yeah.
everything else first because you're setting your tone for your day. if you wake up and you start to get ticked off about politics. And 9 out of 10 times, I'm sorry, there's nothing you can do to change it. We're nobody. Like my wife used to say, you can argue about it all you want and complain about it all you want, but it's not going to change. All you can do is vote, unless you're going to go to Washington and start to protest and all that. It's not going to change. Okay, so what are you getting that upset about? And I guess you're right. In a lot of ways it is. But how do you approach someone who, let's say I get on Facebook and I'm doing something and I have even relatives and stuff that will provoke me into something. How do you feel about, this thing happened that took place and that thing took place? It's hard not to say topics, but one of those things that took place, I don't hear you saying anything about that. How do you approach those people that want you to start arguing and want a confrontation with you?
Well, I always go back to play tug of war. One person has to have one end of the rope and the other person has to actually pick up the other end. So there's a few different ways you can handle that. One would be what's called motivational interviewing techniques. And that's basically where it's a way of speaking. We use it in therapy a lot, but it's a way of speaking where you roll with resistance. So for example, I'll just give you an example. If I'm in my office and I'm doing an intake on somebody, and basically, they say, well, I don't even want to be here. This is BS. You're just going to charge me money. All these things that people will sometimes say. And basically what that's about is they're trying to create a conflict. Especially in therapy, a lot of times it'll be to divert the attention from them.
Right.
And so it's like, well, what do you do with that? And all I would say is, you know what? I think I don't blame you for feeling that way. I can't speak for you, but I could understand feeling that way. It just rolls with that. And it's there's been several times in my career where I had a client that was, somebody was being really unruly, and motivational interviewing was a big help. Another thing is I statements. And I know that sounds hokey. I always think, the I statements, but it's a way of having, a confrontational discussion, but not being confrontational. So when I use I statements, it's basically, I feel blank, when blank, etc. If you think about it, if somebody says, well, you, automatically my fight or flight response kicks in, and I'm automatically defensive. Automatically. And it's like, oh, hold on a minute. What's going on here? Are you attacking me? Whereas if I say, I feel really angry about what happened earlier. I'm talking about the behavior or whatever happened, but always remember there's two things that no one can ever tell us: what we think and what we feel. Right. We are the only one that knows what we think and feel all the time. So, if I'm talking about how I feel, who can argue with that? And people will argue with that too, but I think I statements can help,
I remember, I'm thinking back, one of my bosses, when I worked in New York, told me, dealing with customers, he said, customers just want to be heard. Okay. Yeah. They 9 out of 10 times, they know they're not right, but they want to at least be heard. So I actually used to take the high ground on that. I used to let them talk, because if you keep cutting them off, well, there's nothing I can do, but, they're not even listening to you anymore. And actually, you're not even listening to them. So you let them present themselves. And then I would usually go back to them saying, I hear you. I understand exactly what you're saying. I hear it. Okay. Unfortunately, this is the guidelines I got to follow. They may suck. Okay. Sometimes, but there's really not much else I can do. It's life. Like, I work for a pawnbroker, They wanted their loan today, but they didn't call for it the day before. Well, sorry, it's in a time locked vault. What would you like me to do? Okay, nothing I can do about it. So, I hear you and I understand you're going away and you need it and everything, but there's nothing I can do. Vaults aren't opening until tomorrow. Okay, unless we got some TNT and stuff, it's not going to open. So, I got you. I hear what you're saying. Yeah, I wish I could help you. And 9 out of 10 times, if the other person knows you're hearing them, it diffuses a lot of it. And I've often tried to do that even with the political stuff. Is I want to hear what you have to say. Not just that. Oh no, that policies. No, there's a reason they're doing this, or there's a reason that was done. Okay, depending on which way you're looking. I let them talk it out to me. And first off, I think I was watching something earlier this afternoon. I was doing some more research on this show, okay, and seeing what else was out there on YouTube, which is not much about it, which is kind of weird because I think, we were going to start with the depression show that we talked about. I mean, we had written up the whole show, okay, had it to go, but I decided to go this way because I really think this is a topic that people should be discussing right now, okay, because it's only getting worse. Every time I go on, it's worse. Okay, I mean, I scroll right by it. I mean, I don't even read it anymore, you know. But one of the things they were saying is that the people that fight so vehemently don't really know all the facts about it.
I think a lot of times that's I mean, I think that's probably true a lot of times.
They know so much, but they don't know it all, and they think, well, this is my field. Yeah, we should do away with this, or we should do that, not do this, or I got it, but I'll hear you out, and then sometimes I'll say, well, when you say something, I'll say, well, that's not what's going on, right? You know that that's not there, and they're like, oh no, I heard it. Yeah, you heard it on the news. Okay, and I'm not even going to say a station. Okay, you heard it on the news. You're taking that as, hey, this is what's going on right now. No, they all got their own agenda. Okay, of things that are going on in the world right now, and I think as a people we need to be very much aware. We're being played like fiddles right now, and I leave it with magic. Okay, when I used to do magic, I was the great Haji. Okay, in my magic show, and I always learned I could say, "So, okay, watch this hand up here. Okay, now watch very close. And I could do whatever I wanted with this hand because nobody was paying any attention. You have that up in the air. They're watching that hand. I can sit there. You open up a bottle of water, drink a bottle. It's misdirection, and I think a lot of times we're being misdirected on a lot of things by both sides, okay, that we lose track of what we're doing. Screw up our brains. So it's not like they're not screwed up enough right now, and I think people are upset. You go to the department store, how's your grocery bill adding up these days? Your family of 4, okay, it's costing you a bundle. Okay, yeah. I'm a family of 2, and it's costing me a bundle, okay? Yeah. But I mean, eggs in Florida just finally reached the $9 mark the last time I went shopping. It's like it's time we do something. Now, what about the people that we've already broken connection with over this? Okay, should we try to reconcile with these people? And to put a part B to that, if we do, what should that conversation sound like?
I think first of all, it needs to come from a place of, something like, I know that we had a disagreement, about such and such, but our relationship is so much more important than that to me. And so I think it's important to acknowledge that. Basically, it's the olive branch is, yes, we disagreed on this over here, but we have these things in common, or we have this common ground. And so I think really looking at the common ground, the hard part about, making amends is sometimes other people aren't ready to hear it, or so that's a really tough call.
You're going to have that. I know in my particular case, there will be a comment. See, I get upset. I used to get upset at my dad when he used to be on Facebook. He used to do this all the time. You'd put up a joke, and he'd say, "Yeah, well, it's because it's Democrats and Republicans, something like that on there." And it's like, "Yo, this is a joke." I would remove the comment because all of a sudden people's laughing stopped. Okay, because now it got into a serious conversation, and I I know myself that if I saw him put up a post like I do with a lot of people now, I just scroll right past it. Hey, whatever. I mean, I really don't care anymore. It's like whatever. I got more things to worry about, oxygen and all that other stuff. That's more concern to me right now than anything else.
Yeah.
But if I'm not trying to, and I think a lot of us are trying to be that minister that's going to convert an atheist, okay, just for their beliefs. That's what I think a lot of people are trying to do on Facebook. They're trying to convert you to their belief. I can make you believe, that these plans are all wrong. We're going in the right direction or we're going in the wrong direction. And, just lay back from it a little bit. Now, how do you think social media, because I'm going to go to that social media and polarization thing. How do you think social media has contributed to this?
I think it is definitely exacerbating it, just amplifying all of it.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about, like you were saying earlier, waking up and listening to the radio, I call that a standing meeting with myself. Like I have a standing meeting each morning, first thing when I wake up. That's a good thing to do and to kind of get centered and, before you start taking on, any drama or those sorts of things. But with social media, now we live on a 24-hour news cycle, and politics are a very divisive topic. People always say, the two things that you try, that you want to avoid in conversations are religion and politics. And it's not because there's anything wrong with either. It's because people have varying beliefs across the board. But I think that it's important to decompress. It's important to take a break, at times.
Well, it's causing a lot of anxiety.
Oh, definitely.
Even when you watch the news, it's like, what am I going to hear now?
And there's a lot of fear. I know that there's a lot of fear floating around where, people are scared of where's the world going,
Right. Well, there's definitely, even just take it out of the politics here, but just it's happening around the world. Every country is going through this right now. The poor Ukraine, the people over there, and then stuff with Russia, and then we have Hezbollah, we have Israel, we got Iran and stuff. We're in a really, heck, people I don't think realize how easy we got it here, just complaining over Democrats and Republicans as to what's happening in some of these other countries, where people are just being blown up for no reason whatsoever. Knock on wood, that really hasn't started to happen here that often. It's happened a couple of times, but, not that often. But you think that, but basically, do you think social media is causing a huger divide? It's making it more intense than it would have been on its own. There's some hot topics that are going around. Okay, but do you think social media intensifies that?
Absolutely. And I think part of it is, and it's the same thing, we can look at it in the same way as the news, we are constantly being bombarded, with information. And if you really look at it, what we find is that a lot of information that's passed around is, tilted in one way or another, or, there are definitely agendas. And so it's important to step away from those things. I mean, I've definitely felt like this. I don't know if you have, but there have been times, throughout my life with Facebook that I just felt like I was drowning in Facebook, and so luckily we can turn that off. Like we don't have to have Facebook in front of us 24/7. We don't have to listen to the news 24/7. But I think that that's the difference. Before, to some extent, I would imagine that people could kind of hide from those things much more easily, and now it's just, with our phone's constantly going off, the internet. So I think it absolutely makes it worse.
Well, we know that like Facebook and stuff has algorithms that allows you to see. We won't go back in its past with political elections, but it's still, you're only going to see certain things. And I wonder sometimes if that's not done to be antagonistic as well. Or by the flip side, to add fuel to your fire about what you believe in. Like I know myself, I mean, I certain posts that show up all the time from groups that I belong to or personality or something, I only see the ones that are on my side. What I believe. Okay, let's put it that way. My belief. I don't see the ones from, let's say, Rosie O'Donnell. Okay, not that she's my like his friend there, but I don't see stuff from like that side at all. I see the opposite side, and I'm wondering, that again. I think that's, as Zuckerberg has already said, it's some of that was intentional. They were guilty of a lot of that, and I have zero doubt that they're still doing it now to us.
I think a lot of the motivation is just to like probably increase engagement. You know what I mean? Because that's the thing. Social media there are definitely addictive properties, where it's that instant gratification, bam, 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 that quick hit, and they play into that. And
well, that's how they get their advertising revenue.
We'll talk about, we need to get a loaf of bread, and then the next day you're looking on your phone and all these bread ads pop up.
Yes,
it's like,
yeah, on Facebook. Yeah, it's like, your computers don't talk to all these things. I mean, we could get to artificial intelligence. We'll probably get to that at some point now. But before I go on, I said before the psychic medium Rick, and I couldn't think of his last name. And I said, don't worry, it will come to me. And I actually had to write it down while you were talking to Rick Hayes. It just came to my mind, okay? And Rick's he'll probably kill me. He's a real good friend of mine. Just haven't seen him in a while, okay? Rick, remember, I'm old, okay? You are a year older than me, but we're old, okay? Our brain starts to go a little bit. So do you think it would help for the people that are fed up with it and stuff to just start minimalizing their time on social media and news and stuff? I mean, different if something's going to affect you and your job, if you happen to work for the government and something like that. But if not, everything's set up. In the morning when I'm sitting eating breakfast, sometimes I go on Facebook. Okay, because I really don't spend that much time at my desk when I come in my office on Facebook anymore. I used to a long time ago. I have no interest in it. I'd rather sit and play solitaire than, if I'm going to do something than that. But they have it set up where I can only read so many messages on my phone. If I log into Facebook, they want me to download Messenger to be able to see all of it. And that's when you get to see and can respond to different things. I mean, I had someone on the marketplace sent me a message yesterday, and I had to actually come over to my computer to read it because it wouldn't show up. It said I had a message, but it wouldn't show me who the message was and how to get to it. So they got you constantly, where it's going to go to your phone and stuff. I mean, heck, I wear, it's on this arm here, one of the freestyle Libre sensors for my diabetes. I don't even let that notify me on my phone. Okay, I turn off the notifications for that. I don't want to be bothered on stuff like that, any of it, because I think we get too engulfed in everything that's taking place. And
Keep in mind, social media is, I mean, on social media, it's opinions. You know what I mean? That's what social media is we can get on there and talk to each other and, offer opinions or, I mean,
but it wasn't what it was all about when it first
yeah,
started.
yeah.
It's what it's become now. Okay, and I mean,
Here's
the last
the
question.
paradox. The
Yeah,
connection has created division,
yes.
more division. That's wild.
See, I love it because I have a bunch of people that I grew up with. Okay, and I'm 66 now, so you can imagine like 50 years ago that I was seeing, and a lot of them I'm hooking up with for the first time. There's some local pages, and they don't allow politics. The moderators, if you put a political post, poof, it's taken out, right away. And that's to keep in touch with
Yeah.
relatives. I mean, come on, all my relatives are on the up north. I was closer to them when I lived in Indiana than I am down here. So it's a good way for me to keep track when it was someone's birthday or something like that. Like my cousin retired, I didn't even know he was retiring. Okay, but I learned about it on Facebook. That's what I thought it was good for. But I really believe in, and I'm talking to the right person, an addiction counselor, on this here, that I think social media has become America's newest and strongest addiction.
Oh, I agree. It really does. It provides us with that, a little portal to like look into other lives,
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Peeping
one of the
Tom.
things too. Yeah, it's like, oh, so many more neighbors to keep up with, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But honestly, I think sometimes it is really important to just take a break. They call it like a social media detox, or,
Right.
um, if you're finding that here, what I always go back to is if social media is making me more miserable than it is making me happy, then maybe it's time for a break for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. It doesn't have to be a break forever. Take a day or two off, and then go back to it with with a fresh perspective. But it's just like anything else, where when we're constantly surrounded by all that and in the constant just information overload, it's important to step back from that. If you're anything like me, something that I've definitely struggled with in life is, I take things personal, and it's like, you know what? Everything is not personal to me. If my favorite color is, purple, and somebody else says, no, yellow's the prettiest color, that's not an attack on me. That's not, it's not, they're not saying something other than what I think to attack me. And what I can tell you as a therapist is, some of my favorite work throughout the years has been learning the perspectives of so many different types of individuals, and what you find is, regardless of what a person believes, typically deep down, they believe what they believe for reasons that are very important to them. And I think that's one of the common grounds that we can always look at is, um, there, my wife Erin and I don't agree on everything in the world. I mean,
Be married 20 something years, and I understand that gradually continues to grow. But yes,
one of my grandpas used to say, if you're not fighting, you're not getting along.
that's right. There you go.
But honestly, I mean, a healthy marriage is supposed to have
Mm-hmm.
not fights, but it's
Right.
supposed to have differences of opinion, and that's one of the hard parts of marriage is you have to work together to learn, how do we overcome this difference together.
I mean, we voice ours sometimes. I'm sure yours. It will get heated as far as just strong opinions. That's what I mean by
Yeah.
heated. But it's never to the point where f you, type of deal. It just we just have difference of opinions on, what, like even coming back to the show. I mean, it's like, you really want to do it. It's like, if I'm bringing it up, yeah, I really want to do it again. It's like, but I could be doing a lot of things, but I'm retired and this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to be the guy who mows and cleans all day. I have brain that's still functioning, or 90% functioning. So, sorry, Rick. Okay. But, it comes back, every once in a while. But it's true. You can't fight with each other, even in your marriage. And it's the same way with your friends. I mean, I have some good friends, I had one that was actually my best friend, came here 2 weeks ago and came and visited here for like 3 days. He stayed here at the house and we had great time. I mean, we really, really did. And it all started as a joke about the week before that, where I just texted him one day and said, "Hey, you want to go to dinner Friday night?" Just joking around. And he's like, "I wish." And I was like, "Yeah, so do I." So I hadn't seen him in over 2 years. And then the following Tuesday, he sent me a text. He says, "Hey, you want to go to dinner Friday night?" Yeah, funny. Okay. It's like I already said that one already again. And by the way, if you think, guys, they got darker, my spotlight went out. Okay, the batteries must have ran dead in that spotlight. So if I suddenly got a little darker and stuff, that was why. But he came and said, "No, we're flying in on Friday morning." He says, "We stay over the house." I was like, "Sure." And we spent like 2.5 days and had a ball. So yeah, I can tell him anything I want to tell him. Okay, and we do fight because he's diabetic too, and doesn't understand when he's drinking, 5 cans of Mountain Dew, that's really not good for you. Okay, trust me, been there, done that. Okay, 16 years now I've been diagnosed with it. I know all about it, but we don't take it to the point of, your butthole or something like that. It's hey, we're just expressing things. Same thing with his wife. His wife jokes with him, but she's telling him seriously. She's a nurse too. She's telling him, hey, you need to pay more attention to it, because I mean he's in his mid-40s, or the late 40s, I should say, and you got to watch, because that's when that stuff started to creep up on me. I turned 50 and found I had diabetes at the same time. That's happy 50. They say your halfway point. No, I'm not going to live to be 100. I don't know too many people that live to be 100 either. So looking at this, let's go back. Do you think this political divide is something new, or has it always existed in some shape or form?
I think it's always been there. I mean, really, even, politics is one example. There are always going to be differences of opinion. That's part of the world. I mean, so I think that there have always been, differences of opinion, but I think we live in an age of technology where, the difference between now and before is everybody wasn't connected 24/7, and that's the thing too, is every single person has a platform, which it's like, here's an example. Back when I was playing in, a band and we were doing albums and stuff like that, it was like, for people to hear your music, you would have to either, make your own CD, get a record deal, and then you have to have distribution to send it all out. And now, instantly,
put it on the web,
right there, it's instantly online. Anybody in the world can access that, and opinions are no different. Anyone can put any opinion, anything they want to say out there in a moment's notice.
Yeah,
and I think that's what's different than before.
I think, but what's happening is the repetitiveness of the opinion.
Yeah.
And I always go back to, if you ask me what's in a Big Mac, okay, I can tell you 2 old beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. Why do I know that? Not because I'm some kind of nerd or something like that. It's because I remember that commercial. Yeah, I could even sing it to you the way they used to sing it. They played it so many times on the air that you remembered it. Okay, it's like plop plop fist. I mean, if you put something in front of someone long enough, they're gonna remember. And I think that's what a little bit of what's going on with news organizations, or it might even go deeper to saying Republican or Democratic Party. Let's just keep throwing it in their face, okay? And you can have people like Glenn Beck or um, Joe Rogan on one side, then you can have the people from MSNBC and who's Bill Mayer on the other side, and you can have all these different things, and people are watching them because they like Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
But the fact is, I love Joe Rogan. I love his shows, but sometimes he goes a little too political. And I don't want to say I watch Joe Rogan and say, oh yeah, it's because he talks, he thinks Musk is great, but no, nothing like that. I watch it because he does cover some interesting topics every once in a while, and I think the media has gotten so strong, even in podcasts, which is why I had to push and say when we started this one, it's not about politics.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk Republicans, Democrats, or anything like that. We're going to talk about politics in general and what it's doing to us as a society.
Yeah. Carl just said in the chat, he said the more they say it, the easier it is for people to accept it as truth.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
and it's kind of it's sort of a thing like when you're a kid, Santa Claus. That's the reality.
Yeah.
That is, if that's what you're told, if everybody goes, that is your reality. And then at some point, the secret comes out and it's like, oh, wow,
But you see, that's where you're having problems today in Christianity, not to go into a whole other topic, but the same way where we were brought up with, you were brought up in a Catholic home, I know, as well. And I was brought up Roman Catholic, where I went to Catholic school, they used to have a mass, 10 o'clock mass or 9 o'clock mass on Sunday morning, where you had to sit with your class and they took attendance at church, okay, to make sure you were there. I was taught by nuns, they used to wear the habits and stuff. I mean, and then people get to a point where they start to wake up and back away from it. And I'm really hoping that people start to back away from the politics just slightly, okay, and not go overboard like we're going. Because I don't even know. See, I miss the Bahamas. And I'm going to tell you, far from obvious reasons why I miss going to the Bahamas. But whenever I was down there, we had people at this resort we went to all the time that were from Italy, Canada. I mean, because SunWest was a big airline for them there. And then Viva, which was part of the organization, was settled in Italy. So you get all these people from all these different countries that were there. We'd all sit around, and the ocean. It's really weird. I've held a lot of conversations, swimming in the ocean with a bunch of people there. And you start talking and you realize that people's perception outside the U.S. is even more screwed up than it is inside the U.S. Because God knows what we're telling the people out there. Or maybe the people out there know so much more than we know here. Because we're being programmed with certain news and stuff. That's why I used to watch the BBC news and stuff like that, because I wanted to see what they were talking about in other countries that they don't even talk about here. Things that are going on in the world they don't want us to know about. As we're finding out with the CIA and everything else, all the stuff we've been doing, it's kind of scary. But, who knows? We need to have those Sesame Street shows. So, okay, how can you be friends with someone without compromising your own values?
By finding, I think by finding the values that you can agree on. Okay. If everybody's exactly the same, what's the fun of that? I mean, really. So it's if you think about it, think about how many people that you have come across in your life, and maybe they're just an acquaintance, maybe they're a good friend, but I can think of several people that I know, and I have no idea what their political leanings are, and it's like, what? Wow. So I think that for me, it's like, well, if I can get along with them, never, having never even brought politics up, then, you know, why do politics have to be a huge part of our relationship necessarily? But I also understand where people will feel like, that's just rolling over, or, well, I have a right to think what I think, and we all do, but when talking to people whose beliefs differ, I think what I found as a therapist is, sometimes we hear stuff and other times we listen to stuff. There's a big difference. I mean, if I'm sitting at my desk and I'm working on things and I have the TV on in the background, I'm hearing it. But am I really listening to no, not
Right.
at all. But if I want to know and understand where a person's coming from, it's important to listen.
And I think that's going to be one of the major lessons I hope people take out of this today, is to listen to other people. Okay. And, just because, like you said, their opinion's different than yours doesn't mean yours is right and theirs wrong, or they're right and you're wrong. It's, I bring it back to us with music. A couple of times when you were talking, I was thinking about, that's, why I don't even really watch TV and stuff anymore. I mean, I have the Fire Stick, so I watch YouTube, believe it or not. Okay,
me too.
it's really great
too.
being here. But I got certain shows I watch, like certain renovation shows and things that I watch, and lighthearted. But it's stuff that's interests me. Okay, it's things that I like to watch. Even heck, in France and the UK, they're all rebuilding these castles inside, and all these things. And one is Convent of Petherick's that I watch. I mean, to me, it's every 5 days a week. I look forward to going into that bedroom at about like 5 o'clock at night, lay down, just to relax from the day, and turn that stuff on and get a smile and laugh. And the world isn't that serious, because life is short. Okay. Trust me, from someone who, has watched a lot of people as you get older. When it gets scary is people your own age are dying. That's when you realize you're in trouble. Because you've now entered, your risk went up a little higher, than it did before. But I mean, I don't want to, argue with people anymore. I want to have a good time. Music was always my thing, and I'm sure it was yours for you as a musician, yours too. Okay, I could sit and talk to anybody about music, even stuff that I don't even listen to, music from like the 20s, 30s, and stuff, and I could still appreciate it. And, I may not agree that, it's better music than it is now or something, but we can still talk about it. And we don't get upset over it.
You just made me think of something. So, Erin, my wife, always says, because she's not a musician, but she always says, so like we'll be listening to a song and we'll be in the car or something, listen to the radio, and I'll say, "Oh, did you hear what the drummer did right there? Did you hear how the whole feel of the thing changed?" And she's like, "No." And she always says, she's like, "Well, I'm not a musician. You obviously listen to music like a musician." And then, we have some other friends that are musicians, and I think that kind of goes back to like the difference between hearing and listening. If
most people are hearing music, like you played a number of bars and stuff like that. Okay, 10 minutes to Wapner. Okay, it was one of okay, and you were playing and you were playing covers and stuff, and people are just sitting there having a good time. They're holding conversations and they're hearing the music in the background. Okay, and then you're right. It's like us. Well, we listen to a band play live. Say, whoops, missed that chord. And they're like, what? I say, oh, you hear that? No. Okay, but it stood out like a sore thumb to us. Okay, or they missed beat somewhere there and you covered it up and just kept going like we've all done.
Or another thing, a lot of times I'll say, did you hear that harmony part? Did you hear the harmony on that chorus? And no, it's like, but if we listen for it, we'll hear it every time.
And I think the problem is that I don't even think we're hearing or listening to other people anymore. I think we're just barking. We're barking up a tree that nobody wants to go up. Okay. And, I mean, I don't know, you know, I want to pass. We've covered so much of this that I'm looking on the sheet as I'm talking to you here. We've covered so much of this today, but I think a lot of people like I can think of them like my dad, okay, who you know when they're alone and stuff and don't have a circle of friends around them they can speak to, they actually get worse with politics. They because they have no distraction from politics. Even if they're not on Facebook or someplace, they're still watching Fox News or CNN or something like that, and that's causing a lot more problems. So, what do we say to someone? Um, I guess the word listening came back here, but what do we say to someone who's actually not listening to, like, if what you're saying to me and stuff, if I wasn't listening to you and hearing what you're saying, okay, how do we get people to start listening instead of reacting? I guess that's the big topic of this is how do we stop that? How do we turn the volume down?
I mean, I do a lot of I have facilitated intervention groups for abuse intervention. So
Mm-hmm.
I work with individuals that are being abusive to others, physically abusive or mentally, et cetera. And, I think one aspect of that is trying to let our defense, leaving the house with our defense down a little bit, or talking to folks with our defense down more.
But people
like
can't
I
trust
said,
anybody anymore. There's so many people out to screw you over in plain English that people have their guard up so strong right now that I mean I'm one myself. I'll talk to people. I'll give them if I'm out someplace in Publix or some store and I'm Lowe's and I'm talking to them, but the New Yorker in the back of my head is like, "Go ahead, try. I'm ready."
yeah.
Yeah, I'm ready for whatever you got to say and do. I'm ready for it.
I mean, so when working, so in that program, what we talk about is I call it thinking in the red, and thinking in the red is anytime I have a thought that is abusive in any way, shape, or form. And by definition for that group, abuse is anything I say or do that violates the golden rule. So if I'm acting in a way that I wouldn't like to be treated, then that's abuse, and that's kind of our gauge. And I'm losing my train. What did you ask me before, Steve? I'm so sorry.
So I mean, now you answer me to remember. I just finished typing in the conversation there.
Between the two of us, we can put our bald heads together and we'll figure something out.
We'll get something. My hair is just falling. Okay, it's just it's not even up there. It's just falling in. But I think Carl he had said something in here, and that's what was interesting. So my friends and I have a basic rule: we know which way we vote, but we leave the politics alone, with each other. And I think the problem that people are having now is they think the politics has to be part of their identity. I think you said this earlier. It's they think we must vocalize who we are because if we didn't vocalize, then people are going to walk all over us. In either side on that, because that can go both ways on there, and we need to go back to the time where we didn't talk about that. Where I talk to someone and I still have friends, I just talk about music to them.
Yeah.
One was actually a radio host, okay, and he's a blues player and blues guitarist, still playing blues guitar. He's 67 and still goes out and plays bars and stuff all the time. And we don't talk about politics. We see a little different from each other, but we talk about friendship stuff. We talk about music, and politics never comes up in our conversation. And no matter how much you try on Facebook, and say, okay, if you want to talk to me, no politics. That lasts for about a week. Okay. And then someone's going to pass a political comment. And I know I was guilty of it myself. Somebody called me out on it once. And I think that's what made me step back. Somebody called me out and said, you lambasted me for making a comment on your page about something that you talk about that wasn't even political, and he turned it political. He said, but then you came on mine and you ripped me a new butthole for something I said. I was like, yes, but here's the difference. I wasn't talking to you or anything. We were talking about a joke. I said, you literally said, all you people that blah, blah, blah. Then you went, you're all, well, you called me out on that one, okay? You're basically saying I'm a moron if I believe this, okay? Well, then, yeah, you talk to me, okay? And now I set you straight on what you were saying there was wrong because I gave you the facts. I didn't just yell at you. I gave you the facts that were behind it. And then I realized, why did I even do that to this person for? This is somebody I knew back in Westport and Indiana and stuff like that. I'm good friends with his dad and stuff, who just passed away. But I wasn't, why I went off on him, I have absolutely no idea for. And I think that's what's happening to a lot of people. I think we're not even realizing what we're doing anymore. We're just going off just to go off at this point. It seems like it's supposed to be the right thing to do. It's time for America to stand up. You've heard all that crap over and over again. Both sides saying it. What do we do? How do we teach ourselves? Because you know what? I can't change you. I can only change myself. I don't need to tell you that, okay? You know that, okay? So what do I need to tell? What do people need to tell themselves? That's the good way we'll end this whole topic on. What do people need to tell themselves to avoid all of this political garbage?
I think that keeping in the forefront of our mind that everything that is happening around me is not personally an attack on me. It's okay to have differences of opinion. It's okay to disagree, but it's how we communicate. And I always think of, if two people are just screaming at each other, nobody's hearing no one's listening, it's just screaming. But when we listen and we have, a healthy dialogue and we talk without taking things personally, I think that's a big step in the right direction. It's just because someone comes at me, even if they're saying something, if they're being nasty or whatever, I don't have to respond with nastiness. It's going back to like the tug of war. If someone is just looking to get a rise out of me, they don't have to. I don't have to allow that. That's really hard to do when our emotions are, at 150 miles an hour, but it's possible. It is possible to do that.
And anyone who knows me knows that they haven't seen a political post or anything from me at all. Yeah. Okay, and probably, especially since we set a date that we were going to be doing the show. Last time we had spoken there, I said that I can't be a hypocrite, okay, and go on, doing this what I'm doing, the same thing. And I really hope that we start to take the time to heal, because really this is what it is. We're struggling with so much stuff in life right now. We're struggling with disease. Okay, we just all dealt with COVID and all these other viruses and stuff that are going around. We're dealing with bigger prices at your grocery stores. We're joking around about $9 eggs and stuff like that. It's gotten up where everybody's watching every single dollar. I mean, I know actually someone who said they need to get a new car, but they won't get rid of it because it costs too much money for a new car. I mean, someone actually told me last night that their daughter had a car for 2 years. Okay, and ran it down really low. They paid like 5-6 grand for it, and went to trade it in to get another vehicle, and got $8,000 for the car because the price of the car had gone up so much that they actually made money and drove the car for 2 years. I mean, I'm one myself. I was a web designer. I used to do call outs. I drive around here in Florida sometimes, and I'm like, wait a minute, that used pickup truck is $21,000 used with like 100,000 miles on it. Wait a minute. The new one started at that price. No, the new ones are like 32, 33,000. So yeah, I'll hold on to my cars for a while too, because there's such a stress on us, and we actually think that we have the power to change what's going on. And it's a nice in theory to think that, in a democracy that we do have a say in what's going on. But we also, let's be real, we also know that they're going to do what they want. Okay. And hopefully, worst they can do is they get voted out and somebody else gets voted in. I personally think they all work together and it's a game. And they just, okay, you've been there for 8 years now. We'll go on for 8 years and stuff. And they all doing stuff. Let's put it this way: no one goes in with 100,000 and comes out not being worth $2 or $3 million after serving 4 years. Okay,
Yeah.
so and then not getting paid that kind of money in 4 years for that. So yeah, there's a lot that's going on, and I really hope we really, really start to chill out.
My
You
hope
have,
also is that people will practice self-care. I mean, there a lot happens on any given day, especially in an environment like we're in, where there, like you said, there's a lot going on. And so it's important to give ourselves time to, to decompress, to, I always call it letting the steam roll off, and I always picture coming home from, a day full of, some drama of some kind or whatever. And just picturing like steam just coming off my bald head,
well,
but
my friend Elvin that was here, he does that. He goes out even in the middle of winter. He's got a hot tub, and he literally
yeah.
sits there, and the steam comes literally off of his head. But yeah, you have to decompress, and I
And it's important to be able to voice our opinion, to have someone in our life that we can talk to,
mhm,
that, we all have, hopefully everyone has, unconditional friends,
right.
that love them for them regardless. And what, even if you disagree, someone can listen and give feedback. I mean, and I think we don't have a lot of dialogue happening. There's a lot of opposition, a lot of fighting, but there's not necessarily a lot of dialogue. And I think that's the key to
Yep.
understanding others and ourselves, etc.
My my dad always used to say, if you're angry and you're ticked off, something ticks you off before you say anything, take a deep breath.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
let that breath out, and then see if you're still as. I mean, hell, I've quit jobs on the spot when I was younger, because I got angry and just quit. Some of the stupidest thing you can do, because then go try to get a job somewhere else, and they look at, well, you quit without notice, you'll do that to me, and it takes a long time for you to break that cycle. So, I hope people have enjoyed today's show. Okay, delving deep into ourselves to make us a better, happy, healthier person is really what it's all about. Now, in the coming months, we'll be doing shows, as I said, on spirituality, creativeness, self identity, acceptance, what's your passion, aging gracefully, hobbies, enjoying life, and so much more. And in fact, we even talked about our show next week will be on depression. Okay, and depression is, I think, a huge part of what's happening in society right now,
Yeah.
too. Okay, and actually, probably even tags along a little bit with this show. People are depressed and that's how they're acting out and stuff on it. So, as I said, we're going to speak to people and make it, some really good shows. The first show, be patient with us, folks. Okay, there's a couple of things that we were trying to get to work, didn't work here, and I'll figure it out by the next week when we get on the air. Okay, as to what went wrong, but if you like the show and even you're watching it later and stuff, please do us a huge favor: hit the like button and the subscribe button. Now, this is not a monetized show. Okay, we're not sitting here making money or anything like that. We're here to help you, help yourselves, making yourself have a much better life. So if you do click those buttons and stuff, it actually helps us in their analytics to put the show up a little higher so other people can find the show. So that's why we're asking you to do that. And Dr. Davis, I thank you for joining us today.
my pleasure.
And I think we're going to have a really good time in the future. And I've been leaving as tagline, AI is actually something that's really fantastic because you can ask it a couple of questions and put stuff in much better words than I can put it into. But I actually started to use this as the tagline for the show. It says, remember, no matter where you are in your journey, you are valuable and important. Take time to cherish yourself and those around you, and never forget your life matters.